Hey everybody, welcome back to Subject Zero, and I'd like to give a special shout out to all those people who are currently watching videos on the interwebs. You know who you are. As promised, I have a special video for you today. This is an unboxing of the myDNAge epigenetic testing kit. Earlier, I opened up the kit, I went through all of the contents of it and went into detail about what to expect there. And then I went through the process of actually drawing the blood, testing everything, and showing you how everything works from start to finish so you'll know what to expect if and when you order your kit. After we go through all of those items, we're also going to get into what exactly it is this kit is testing and how it's different from other methodologies such as myDNAge by Inside Tracker, the test that we went over in my last video. All right, so let's get down to it. Here we have the myDNAge kit. This kit comes from Zymo, and it's a kit that basically helps you determine your epigenetic age based on your Horvath clock. This is the only kit on the market that I'm aware of. I've done significant research to try and find somebody else that offers this service, but they're the only ones I can find. I believe they have some sort of exclusivity deal worked out so that they are the only ones to offer the product, and it's definitely priced as such, especially for something geared towards a home test market with self-finger pricks, etc. Current pricing on the kit is $300, which seems insane. But they do have a monopoly on it currently, so there's really not much you can do there. They do offer sales and deals from time to time on their website or their Facebook page, so keep an eye out for those if you're like me and, a little cheap. I've seen them get down to $99 and once even down to $49, which is honestly way more realistic of a price. Now, when it comes in, you want to pay attention to the sample ID that's on the side of the box so you can tell what number your kit is. This tells you what your particular kit is, so when you activate it, here, let me open this up. You'll write that down on this card and then go to the website listed here and enter your code to activate the kit before you get started. Now, it also comes with some pretty in-depth instructions. If you've ever done the whole 23andMe or Ancestry.com home DNA kit thing, this is quite a bit more in-depth. Those involve spitting in a cup. This involves a series of technical steps that seem more on par with something a phlebotomist might do at a doctor's office. But that being said, it's not really all that bad, especially if you're used to doing finger pricks for things like checking your blood sugar or something like that. It's a very similar process, just with a few more details. Now, looking inside the kit itself, you have lancets and blood collection tubes. You have 2 of each. The idea being that you use one of these blue lancets to prick your finger, and then you use one of these purple collection tubes to draw the blood in. If you're able to completely fill one of the lancets on your first try, you won't need the second lancet. But if you aren't able to get a completely full draw the first time, that's where the second lancet and the second collection tube comes into play. But if you don't screw it up, you'll just need the one. So, what do you do once you've drawn the blood into the tube? You're going to deposit it into this vial. First, you'll want to write the date and your initials on the vial, and then you deposit all of the blood from the collection tube into the vial by pressing down on the plunger. Once you finish, you'll shake or flick the blood vial 5 or 6 times to evenly mix the blood up. Then you'll put the vial and the lancets into this biohazard bag, and then you'll put the biohazard bag into this mailing envelope and mail it off. Postage is already paid. The kit also comes with an alcohol swab to clean your finger with, and look at that, a bandage for your bobo. Isn't that cute? Now, all of that together is what you're paying $300 for, so hopefully it's worth it. I've already washed my hands. I just did so. Now we are going to get the alcohol pad and swab. All right. And we are going to get this doohickey here. And then should be just a little poke. That's all. And then we get this gauze and we wipe the first drop away, and then squeeze. And you want to take this little vial and you want to continue squeezing and get as much blood into this tube as possible, because if you don't get enough, you got to prick yourself again. All right? So I'm just steadily pushing blood out into this little tube, which I think I'll be able to fill up pretty easily. I'm a bleeder, especially when you shove needles in me. Now, if you're used to doing finger sticks for things like checking blood sugar levels or ketones, if you're on a ketogenic diet, this will be very familiar to you, although it's not usually this much blood by any means. If it is, you're doing it incorrectly. And it's not usually this messy. This is a little messier because of the amount of blood you need. But we were able to fill it up with no problems. Now, all right, you're going to take the lid off of this vial. All right. And there's a little bit of liquid in here that freaked me out at first, but this little bit of liquid is actually something to help the blood make it there intact. So it's supposed to be there. And then you're just going to put this in there and push down on this purple plunger, and away you go. Now you're good. You put the lid on this, make sure you filled out all the requisite information, and put it in the mail. That's all there is to it. All right, so I know what you're thinking. What's the difference? Biological age, inner age, myDNAge, it's all the same thing, right? No. Inner age measures your biological markers to tell you how old your body feels, basically. myDNAge, on the other hand, actually measures the age of your DNA to tell you how old your cells actually are. Now, according to their website, the myDNAge test evaluates chemical modifications on DNA known as methylation marks. Numerous studies show that lifestyle and environmental factors can alter genetic DNA methylation patterns in our cells. For example, stress, exercise, smoking, and diet. In short, research shows that our lifestyle and the daily choices we make can influence the methylation marks on our DNA. In a recent interview, Dr. Steve Horvath, who pioneered this whole method of DNA methylation aging, which is why it's now known as the Horvath Clock. So, do cool science. Cool science gets named after you. Yeah, how about that? In this recent interview, he said that over time, your DNA accumulates damage, which he compared to rust on a car. Different factors can make the car rust faster. That's the reason why people who spend too much time in the sun without sunblock, or people who are lifelong smokers, often look much older than they are. Their DNA has accumulated significant enough damage to prematurely age them. This means they don't just look older. Their cells are actually physically older. With that in mind, the biggest difference between myInnerAge and myDNAge is just that. The former measures how young your body feels. The latter measures how old your cells actually are. With myInnerAge, they claim that, and in fact, their whole business model is based on the concept that you can reduce your inner age just with diet, exercise, supplementation of various vitamins and minerals, etc. That's their whole concept. This is how old your body is right now, but if you take these steps, your body will feel younger. My inner age is 41.3 years old compared to my actual calendar age of 39.8 years. With diet and exercise and supplementation of various things, I could conceivably get my InnerAge down to mid-30s, possibly even mid-20s. With myDNAge, however, it's a measure of the damage that's been done to your DNA. This is a little more permanent. These aren't things that you can really just change with diet and exercise. You can't roll back the wrinkles easily, or at all. At least, that's what we thought. Now, recently, you may have heard of a study where they took a group of men and were able to successfully reverse their epigenetic age by an average of 2.5 years. That's why this is so huge. They didn't just make these guys feel healthier. They actually reversed DNA damage so that their cells were younger. Let that one sink in for a second. Now, granted, it was a limited study, but they're currently scaling it up significantly into a double-blind, placebo-controlled study so that the subjects and the data can be more accurately reviewed. But the results are still astounding, and for the very reasons that I mentioned earlier. This wasn't a situation where these subjects suddenly felt a little younger. These subjects were physically younger. So let's say that the average age of these subjects was 59.0 years old. And let's say that somehow magically their Horvath clock agreed with that number exactly, okay? 59.0 years old. After 12 months of the study, they turned 60, right? Ostensibly, their Horvath clock would also roll over to 60. But in this case, it didn't. Their Horvath clock read 57.5 years old. So the DNA of these individuals, on average, was 2.5 years younger than what it should have been. Let that sink in for a second. What fountain of youth wizardry heralded these kind of crazy results? I mean, how many eyes of Newt did they need? And where do I find eyes of Newt? Well, come to find out, it actually wasn't anything that crazy. See, they were testing to see whether the thymus gland, which is a gland that helps with your immune system, basically. And as we age, it kind of atrophies and fills with fat. So they were testing to see if they could repair that in older people by use of human growth hormone, or HGH. Now, HGH has a tendency to cause, blood sugar spikes, diabetes, that sort of thing, with prolonged use. So to combat that, they also gave them metformin and DHEA. Metformin is the most common anti-diabetic medicine in the country, probably in the world. Very common, very cheap. It's also been shown in several scientific studies to have a significant result on everything from cancer to age-related health diseases. So this thing is kind of being treated as a wonder drug right now, although you still do have to have a prescription in order to get it. DHEA, on the other hand, is even easier to get. It's just a supplement you can pick up at almost any vitamin store or online. Now, part of my quest is to see what change, if any, I can have on my Horvath clock. But of course, before I can see what kind of results any of this can have, first I have to see what my Horvath clock says. After I start these protocols, we'll test it again at a later date to see what result, if any, they've had. Now, to be honest, I'm not expecting much, or anything. I mean, let's face it, a major scientific study that cost over $10,000 per subject was only able to garner 2.5 years on average. I mean, honestly, human growth hormone was probably doing most of the heavy lifting in this process, and human growth hormone is illegal to obtain in the United States. But I have a plan. Legal. Completely legal. All right? I'm not trying to break any laws here in the search for eternal life. Immortality sucks if you have a life sentence in prison. No. I have perfectly legal plans to try and mimic their study as closely as possible, and we'll get into that in next week's video where we cover some of the supplements that I'm taking and the reasons behind each of them. That is all for myDNAge. My kit is finished, I've taken the blood, I've put it in the mail, and I've sent it off to them. Now, they typically receive it in 2 to 3 days, but it can take up to 6 weeks before you get your results. Once I get those in, I'll make a new video and post them so we can look and see, just how screwed up my DNA is. But in the meantime, as always, I would appreciate it if you give me a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. This week's question: if it were possible to live forever, and not just live forever, but be youthful forever, would you want to? Why or why not? Until next time, let's keep the conversation going. Bye, guys.